Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ViaMonstra Academy office hours. This is Wednesday. It's 4:30 Central Time. This is our weekly update and Q&A for everything that goes on in the ConfigMgr, Intune, imaging, Azure, PowerShell space, and today with a very special guest. So let's get this show rolling, shall we? We are back. Hey there, Andrew, and hey there, Matt, all the way from. Where are you from? Who are you, Matt? Why are you
Should
here?
I dox myself on the entire internet? I don't know. I'm right around the corner. Yeah, no. I live in New York. I'm one of the few proud Microsoft employees that don't call Redmond, Washington home in the United States. So, yeah, super excited about that.
Well, there are some perks. You don't have to pay these incredible house prices. So
yes.
that's a win.
Yes, of course. Yes, there is a win. Yes. And I really appreciate you guys having me on today. Excited to talk and, see what's going on and see what the audience has to say. And so thanks. This is awesome.
So in your little area, what's new and exciting? What have you been working on lately that you can share?
Yeah, sure. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Matt Call, and I am a principal product manager on the Intune engineering team, and I am responsible for Windows security in the Microsoft Intune platform. I play jams like, how do I manage my Defender? What is my security policy supposed to look like? So on and so forth. But recently, we've gotten more, more PM power on the endpoint security realm. And I've been branching out, and I've been working a little bit on endpoint privilege management. Is my big product right now, which everybody seems to be pretty excited about. I know that we're excited about it. But in general, for us, outside of EPM, Cloud Lapse is something Laura, who I work with a lot, has spent a lot of time with the Azure AD team building. And it's been nice to see that come up. I'm super excited about seeing that in market now. And I think generally just the strides we're making with integrations are really what get me excited at the end of the day. It's what I do it for, right?
All right, awesome.
Great. Cool.
Yeah, we have been sharing a little bit on the EPM side of things here since it was announced, and I also saw you were a guest at Intune training folks, our friends in the YouTube space, Adam and Steve and the others. So that was cool, and that seemed to be a good chunk of interest for that solution. Or the Intune suite in general seems to be popular. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And they, their green room had more snacks than the ViaMonstra Online Academy. I will throw that out there. So Adam, kudos to you for the snacks. The snacks were pretty good. So yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, note to self: you need to ramp up the snack level. I know we're bringing snacks to MMS, at least for those of you going to the conference in Minneapolis next month, or in a few weeks. Actually, we have bulked up with a lot of Swedish candy, so bring it over there. So
that'll be great. We have a huge Microsoft presence coming, so make sure you double the amount of candy that you have and snacks. We can convince Wally to let us leave them somewhere and not be around those cabins or whatever they do, usually. So we're excited. Super excited about MMS, as I think everybody is, right?
Yeah, it's a great conference. It's my opinion, the absolute best conference, at least for our space, is this management space, which I've been part of for a while. So it's nice. Anyhow, Andrew, I know you've been keeping tracks a little bit what happened the past 7 days here. Anything you would like to share?
I have. I've been chomping at the bit to share some news. Matt, thanks for joining us today. And you've touched on a couple of these things already. There's been a couple of big announcements over the last week. if you want to share my screen, Johan, I'll share a couple community things first.
All right then.
So our friend Gary Block posted a couple of new blog posts on the management, inventory, and updating of HP docs. So this first blog post here is a WMI provider that would allow you to deploy and inventory the docs within ConfigMgr. And then there is a second blog post related to updating HP docs with Intune or ConfigMgr using PowerShell. So really good stuff here, as usual, from Gary. I was excited to see this. There was another article I came across that there was a new attack being used against Azure AD Connect that was announced late last week, just before the weekend. And I wanted to share this link because it goes into detail on what that attack looks like and some of the things that you can do to actually protect yourself or at least monitor against these attacks. A lot of them are, the standard best practices we use for a lot of things these days. Have MFA out there, reduce your number of global admins, things like that. But definitely worth a read if you're running Azure AD Connect in your environment. And then there was another fairly large update to the M365 Maps website that we often talk about, that Aaron Dinage puts together. And if you go here and click on the changelog, you can see there were a bunch of additions, corrections, and even some removals. And this website just kind of helps you navigate the beauty that is Microsoft licensing. So we often reference this website here on office hours, especially anytime we get some new updates here. So very cool to continue to see this get updated. Couple of other big things then on the official Microsoft announcements. I know that we got the new release of ConfigMgr 2303 that we'll dive into a little bit here in a few moments. So we've got that doc up here. And funny, I was just sort of catching up on news a little bit, and I noticed about a week and a half ago or so, somebody tweeted you, Matt, that they noticed in the 2303 tech preview that MDE data was being uploaded for tenant attach devices, and you were like, maybe, I don't know.
There's a long story there. Long story is we've wanted to do that for a really long time. And it went live in tech preview. I don't remember, because there's this thing when you work at Microsoft where you never really know what's public. I think it's in 2303 as well. I think if I remember correctly, you'll see a screen when you upgrade to 2303 if you're tenant attached that has you check the box. So I think so. But yeah, that's a super awesome feature for customers who don't pay for E5 or don't have E5 and they use tenant attached to manage Defender as like their AV solution. It's super helpful.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually came across this blog post this morning that has that screen.
Awesome.
So it did become public earlier today.
Yeah, we did it. Right.
So this is really cool stuff. I mean, to be able to get this data, like you said, from those devices, I think is great. Anywhere that we can populate and build on these Intune reports, I'm happy to see it. I'm sure everyone else is as well. So kudos.
Well, thanks. I will tell GK if he's listening, and Miss Laura Rizza. These are the two people who did all the work here. I didn't do anything besides have an idea about it, 2 years ago. And the volume of data in the endpoint protection table was prohibitive for a very long time. But they figured out how to get it up there. So it's incredible.
Great stuff. Kudos to you two and your teams. That's awesome. And then last but certainly not least, the new announcement around Labs. Labs is officially built into Windows now, as I understand. Some new improvements that have come out, as well as the Azure AD support being in private preview. Sounds like that's going to be coming a little bit later this year to public preview. But I know this is
even closer than that. The announcement was this quarter, and so like a month or two, as I read it. And so all the sort of the client side pieces are there: Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2019, Windows Server 22, and we are just waiting for the Azure AD piece to come into a public preview. And that's something I was hoping when I saw the announcement, like, oh yes, it's here. No, have to wait a little bit more. But the funding is done. The first milestone right there. It's pretty much like the firmware and drivers control. The milestone is there. Yeah, just waiting for next layer, the management part of it.
Absolutely. Progress is good.
I was going to say you're not going to need to wait very long. I'm doing an MMS session on Cloud Labs and Lab Solution, as well as Endpoint Privilege Management in the same session. So you get a lot of information there. If you're going to MMS, come to my session, shameless plug. We will, we're going to expand this as quickly as possible. It's a validation thing at this point, right? Like I've seen the experiences; they look really good. I think everybody's going to be pretty happy with what the team has built. So
that is awesome.
Very cool.
Sounds good.
So, Johan, I know you've been following a lot of the Labs updates and conversations on Twitter the last 24 hours or so. Did you have anything you'd like to add in here?
Yeah, I was up late last night having a talk, both on LinkedIn and Twitter at the same time, regarding some of the things you need to think about if you are using the legacy Labs control currently and you are deploying either the April updated image, if you have injected the updates into your OS image, or if you are deploying the legacy MSI after the fact, you have updated machines with the April update, which some organizations actually started to do yesterday. So I just wanted to share the official answer that came out from one of the program managers just before lunch today at some point. So see if I can share my screen here. With any luck, I have done this before. I'm a trained professional. So let's see. There we go. That's obviously the ConfigMgr 23 launch, but this one here came out. It's a two-part tweet basically, but if you are using legacy, if you have that deployed already, that there is a specific scenario you may run into, and that is that the password won't reset if you deploy the MSI after the fact. So the current workarounds, as you see down here in the footer, is basically either don't install that MSI or get rid of these registry keys, and that should take care of the problem. The article here kind of hints that there are more like official permanent fix coming, but for now, this is what you have to do if you are in that scenario. And thank you, Aaron, for flagging this initially, and of course for the feedback there. It was like a turnaround time in like 10 hours. Like, yeah, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow about it, and we're going to provide you with a result, and they did. So I'm happy. Good stuff there. That's the power of Twitter or social media in general.
Indeed.
All right. Other than that, there weren't too many changes in the new release. If you go back to ConfigMgr for a bit here, some elegance around the cloud attach management and what you can see in the sync and failures of sync, etc. So there are some. They posted some screenshots on how it would look if you were start to run into some issues with it, but. If you click on these, they will show up in a somewhat reasonable resolution. But this is some of the changes that were done in 23.03 here. Also, the control mechanism somewhere down here for... where did you go, my friend? Not that one. This one here. This one that's been available in Intune for a while now. You can also set through client settings in ConfigMgr to basically, do you want it or not? There are some changes regarding the dark theme. There is support for SQL Server 22, and of course support for the new Unified Update platform release, where you basically will see a pretty good chunk update coming down if you're doing software updates that way. It's about 10 gig per platform here, so it's a bit of a download, but it contains everything you need, and it's a one-time download that comes down to the device. But that allows you to take advantage of the new update architecture for this. Matt, anything that you have been working on in this area, or?
Yeah, UUP. I'm really excited to see it work. I'm really excited to see it get deployed. I'm really excited to see everybody take advantage of it. Like managing language pack versions of updates and that sort of stuff. I can tell you the Windows team, from personal experience, has been working on that an extremely long time. And if you can imagine somebody building a feature on top of WSUS, what sort of pain that might cause, it's no short of pain. It's incredible that they've gotten it to the point they have. And don't be scared of the initial updates. Like, if I remember correctly, this does single instance storage on all of the files and all that sort of stuff. So yes, the updates look a little bit bigger for a file service or a file version and file size and so on and so forth. But yeah, this is going to make the servicing from WSUS to client much more efficient, much easier. So yeah, take advantage of it. If you have feedback, I would say give it to us as quickly as possible. Like, we want to make sure this is awesome, so that way, you can manage all the different add-ons and all that sort of stuff that come with customizing a Windows release. As an old school OSD guy, maybe not as old as Johan in terms of capability, but yeah, old school OSD, sitting at an MDT workbench all day, trying to import updates and language packs and automating all that. Like, it's sort of a dying art, right? I don't know anybody, like, does anybody even, do people build images anymore? I don't know.
It happens, but I'm turning 50 soon, so I have a few years on you. So
yeah, not that many. Not that many. But yeah, I mean, this would be like my dream back in the day when I used to spend all day importing patches into the workbench and generating WIMs. Like, this is incredible.
All right, sounds awesome. Did you have anything else on the updates, Andrew, or was the list done?
No, that's all what right. I had for last week.
So we do have some questions coming in, primarily on YouTube, not so surprisingly, since LinkedIn decided to take a break today from live streaming. But Matt is basically, another Matt is thanking you, Matt, that is here for your reply yesterday about the EPM managing Windows system folders and files. So
I do what I can. Doing something. Hopefully it was a quality response. So I appreciate it.
All right. Siva is asking, what's the best recommended ConfigMgr client install method for organization size up to 10,000 devices? I can extract that or expand that to basically say the method that we use most of the time for any size organization, we're talking about 500 people up to close to 500,000 devices, is startup scripts. If you still have a legacy Active Directory environment for your clients, that is a downright great way to making sure that every device have the client, they have the right version of the client, because basically every time you power up the device or power on the device, start up a device with Windows, it will check against this script, making sure you're on the right version of that client. And if you don't have the client, you're supposed to have the client, it gets installed. Client push and the other mechanisms are more for like ad hoc updates. And for those of you that does a strong co-management space area where you actually introduce clients on the internet, you can definitely install the agent through the Cloud Management Gateway also as part of your onboarding process. But traditionally, that's how it's done in terms of getting the client onto the machines. If you also still image the machines, the client will be installed that way at the same time. And as usual, the most commonly used script is a script we have showcased many times here on the Academy by Jason Sandys. He used to be Microsoft MVP. Now he joined Microsoft a few years back. But his startup script, which you will not find in scripts, ironically, you will find it in tools instead of scripts. Don't ask me why, but this has been around for almost a decade, this script, and it's being used thousands of organizations around the globe for that very fact, to make sure we have a good agent installed.
For some reason, every time I see this page, I get hungry too.
Well, you know, I've been working with marketing too much, because as soon as I saw this, I looked at it and said, man, somebody's gonna have to change this website name again. wasn't it originally ConfigMgr for the win, or SCCM for the win, or something?
It was, and he just changed it to this, fixed all the certificates, and then name change. I was like, dang it.
Certificates are hard, you know. It'll be good news is he remembers how to do it all, probably, right, Jason? So there you go.
That's
so I
right.
watch him get a ping on Teams and be like, dude, listen, we're not changing the website name.
Yeah, I hope to see him in Redmond next week. So we'll see. I'll give him a poke.
There you
at
go.
the name. All right.
Cool.
What else, Andrew?
We've got another question here. What log files for referring to or for monitoring client discovery and client push install? So for client push, you would look at ccm.log on the site server. And then for discovery, there's several different logs depending on the type of discovery. If you want to share my screen for a moment, Johan.
I'll consider it.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
I'm racking up my tab. There's a whole section here on the ConfigMgr docs that relates to discovery. So your various Active Directory discovery actions, data discovery, and things like that. So I'll share that. Those would be the places that I would look first. Anything else you'd like to add there, Johan?
No, that's spot on. There was a follow-up question while we had the screen. Screen open, shared, around how we can speed up the interval for these discoveries, and maybe if you can bring up just the system discovery, for example, in the console.
Let's see if my site server is back in order. Yes, from my upgrade earlier.
Yeah, we cannot run on old releases, can we?
No, absolutely not. Fast ring only all the time.
For your lab, that is. Production, sit tight just a little bit, evaluate first, and then upgrade.
That's right.
Live dangerously.
YOLO, right? Yeah.
My grandfather used to say, drive fast, take chances, right? Maybe not the best. I mean, I break things all the time, so maybe take your time.
Hey, that's how we learn.
Oh, you got to update that console. Oh, you're going to corrupt your database. Oh, God.
See,
God.
Johan, you're ready to go with plan B there.
Yeah. So I just pulled up the system discovery properties and went over to the policy schedule tab, and this is where you can configure how quickly they should scan for this. But in general, this default settings that I have here works perfectly fine for discovering of systems. So that's what I usually stick with. There are some nice things you can set under options to make sure you don't get too much junk. It actually happens that admins of Active Directories are sometimes not cleaning up as quickly as they should, and that if you get some junk back into ConfigMgr as a bonus by setting some reasonable values here, reduces that noise. in your ConfigMgr environment. It's kind of hard to be like 90% compliant if you have 10,000 machines and 5,000 of them doesn't exist anymore. Just make that math really, really hard. I got another question coming in earlier regarding, okay, let's see. What is the SQL view that provides WSUS compliance status? Well, that's not just one view. So Microsoft started back in 2020, 2021 in providing a really great documentation around all the views that are available in ConfigMgr. Prior to this, there was often either community-maintained Excel spreadsheets or a combo of Excel spreadsheets, but these days they are actually well documented. And if you start to expand these views down here, you see they are organized in whatever topic they are supposed to be. I mean, obviously, if you have a report that you like, you can just right-click there at the report to do an edit, check the data set, and you will see what that particular report is querying. But there are some good documentation on software update views here, including some of the status and compliance level that you can query. So this would be where I would start to look for information about those views. So hopefully that will help. And of course, we will share these links as usual after the event here or after the session.
Great stuff. All right.
If you want to have something fun to do over the weekend, I highly recommend to take any ConfigMgr documentation and go to view all page feedback, because that will take you to the GitHub repository for this one. And if you start to go into things like the pull requests or the history, you can actually see a good chunk of details of what happens and when it happens. So I really love when they switched over, not all products, but a lot of products, including ConfigMgr, where you can submit things that you find either being incorrect or ask for clarification. And those pull requests often goes in. Some does, some don't. But it's a great way to invite the community to contribute to the documentation.
I'll just add on a little bit there. As a PM, I get probably 5 to 10 GitHub issues a week. Sorry. And even if you don't want to suggest changes or write our docs for us, like I get why you might not want to do that. If you find something that's wrong and you report an issue, our docs writers are all over it. I have to explain to them what the wording should be, if it's good the way that it is, so on and so forth. They'll respond to you. It's sort of a good ad hoc channel if the docs don't seem to be as clear as maybe you want them to be, or you have a question about what something means in the docs. And we're spoiled with usually pretty technical doc writers. So like the doc writers that I have for the security area, they have labs set up and they're like running these scenarios and they know like, yeah, you're right. I clicked through my lab. This should be the way it is. So a lot of times it doesn't even require like a PM or an engineer or somebody to click through the scenario. They can just look at it and go, yeah, you know what? We missed this doc. Like we should have just add this. And that's where that stuff gets automatically sort of resolved. So yeah, it's awesome. Like if you ever wanted a way to directly collaborate with the people building the products, you probably, I don't know if you can see this publicly, but each doc has like a PM owner assigned to it. So whenever you assign something to it, like if I'm the PM owner, it comes right to me. So now I try and respond to them in a timely fashion or do like the docs writer thing. But yeah, it's super awesome. Super awesome. Like you said, Johan, the pull request, you can see the history, why we added stuff, what we changed. It's awesome. Super awesome.
I mean, it's a nice transparency. And out of curiosity, how many, do you happen to know any like numbers on how many requests are coming in to everything that is part of the GitHub sort of documentation platform?
I don't know. All I can tell you is every time I sync my repo locally to make doc changes, there are thousands of commits just in the mem repo, just in the Intune repo that houses ConfigMgr and Intune. thousands. And I sync like probably at least once a week. Like I pull down at least once a week. And yeah, they're just always busy. And the doc writers, we have this whole team of people that just manage the docs and make sure that they're right and make sure that the quality's there. So, it's really, a lot of people say, hey, this is missing in docs or this should be in docs, but docs are really hard to get right, like at the beginning. And even if you get them right at the beginning, every month they get staler and staler and staler. So it's basically a full-time job to keep that stuff up. And we don't ever, I shouldn't say ever, most of the time what we find are like little things that get missed in edits, which is really awesome. Like I'm okay with accidentally saying endpoint manager in a doc somewhere, right? Even though it doesn't exist anymore. Like as long as the content's there, I mean, we want to fix that, but it's really amazing how well those people that manage the docs keep them up to date.
All right, sounds good. Anything else there, Andrew? You've been reading.
Yep, been trying to keep up. We got some good questions coming in today. Where do we see all the ports needed for ConfigMgr to work? Any script to troubleshoot a PC, or any helpful articles on that? I've got a couple of things that I could bring up, Johan. There's of course speaking of docs. There's a very good doc that references all of the ports used in ConfigMgr. And which direction they need to be open. So I would start there for the actual documentation. And then as far as testing, Trevor Jones actually has a client port testing tool that I came across. I actually did not even know it existed until a few moments ago. So pretty awesome to see this cool little tool that will go through and test various scenarios, connectivity to MPs, DPs, SUPs, and then do some client port testing as well, which I wanted to point out because I did confirm that was testing the fast channel port. So those were the two things I had for that. I'll make sure I get those added to our links as well for today. There we go. Got those.
All right.
All right. Any good documentation on using the baked-in laps yet?
Those docs are out there, aren't they?
I think they were published yesterday.
I think the docs that would have been published would have been around how to use the built-in laps components. Then when we ship the Intune stuff, the cloud version of all this stuff, I think that'll have its own doc set.
I mean, it has been in the insider preview for a good while. It's about the baked-in labs. I'm assuming that was included in the April update that the question is referring to here.
Yeah, so I think that might be this. This is the doc that's at the bottom of the article.
Looks like documentation to me.
I would say so. There's some headings. There's some information. There is also, again, this is all at the bottom of the announcement article, but there's the CSP reference, and then there are a couple of demo videos, I assume, as well. So this is all the documentation surrounding Windows Labs.
Cool.
All right. It's a question from Robert regarding, actually a documentation question, funny enough, but it's around how the pre-staging works for distribution points. And he had some details around who wanted to have that clarified a little bit. It's been a while since I played around with that, so I would have to refresh my memory a little bit before answering that question, unless you happen to have something out of your head, Andrew.
No, pre-staging, I would have come to you.
I mean, the concept is fairly simple. You have a remote distribution point. You need to precede it with a ton of content because So basically shipping a driver USB stick to that location, and you use that to build up the content of the distribution point. Usually what you try to do if you're replacing DPs is to set up a new DP as a pull DP to the already existing DP in that location, so we can just grab all the content quickly over the WAN link, not the WAN link, on the local network to that one. But regarding the changes in documentation on Prestaging to a remote DP, I have to get back to you on that, Robert, next week or something like that. So I guess it's my time to get a homework. Lately, I've been blessed of Andrew getting most of it, but
got to change it up sometimes.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, while you're doing that, Russell asked if we would have links to all these web pages. So yes, again, these will all be on the on the YouTube page for this specific live stream by tomorrow at the latest.
Yeah, often the same night, depending
Yep.
on where we are. But they will be added in the description under the live video, or the recording of the live video. So that will be there.
Sounds good. Well, I'll ask this question, Johan, because I know you love answering it. We're looking at Autopilot with domain join over the VPN. I've been reading that it's a nightmare. Would you recommend doing this, or is it better to spend the time to get to cloud only? And a little bit of follow-up context to that is they're currently using co-management. The VPN is not, no device auth, requires a user to log in to authenticate.
I mean, all in all, if you can avoid hybrid Azure or hybrid join in Windows Autopilot scenarios, it's for the good, because it's a fairly complicated setup, and it's difficult to get it right. It's just one of those. It will take time. But I do have put together. Let's see if I can share my screen again here. Andrew goes away. Here we are, and. So basically, I did a collection on resources that I found useful when I was setting up this for the first time, and the primary resource is probably this one here. Why you may not want to use, like trying to drill into, okay, why would you possibly need it, and try to demystify some common myths around, oh, we absolutely need hybrid because of this. Well, that might not be true. But in general, this is a good starting point. We'll share this link, of course, but this is where I would get going. Try to figure out if you absolutely must have it, because you are in a better shape if you don't. If you can get away with having machines joined to Azure AD only, managed by either Intune or ConfigMgr for that matter, I have nothing against that, but it's the hybrid join to Autopilot that is a complicated setup. I prefer not to if I had the chance.
Agreed. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the thing that makes it the most difficult is no two environments look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's super complex to get right. And if you think about hybrid join, like the original code name for it, domain join ++, its point was to add Azure AD capability to existing devices to take advantage of the cloud, right? And devices being born into that state just feels wrong. So I realize why people do it. I'm not saying that there isn't a good reason to do it, but like you said, Johan, make sure that that's the right choice for your organization, and you can't go cloud only, because your life will get a lot easier with cloud only, given that, well, if what you use on your devices works well in a cloud only environment. There are some exceptions, right? Like, I don't know what those are off the top of my head, but I know there are a few things that will keep people back, right? And
there are everything from some certain type of applications, or it could be a wireless access system that are not based on radios, that I haven't figured out the cloud version of it yet, or something like that. But in general, going from on-premises Active Directory and just creating objects up in Azure, syncing, super easy. The problem is when we are starting the device on internet and we try to go that route to join to a local, that's where the problem starts to happen, or challenges, I should say, then. politically correct. All right.
All right. I would like to set up Windows Labs in my test environment using Azure AD. Any chance you could create a free mini course on the Academy for that?
It's not entirely unlikely, but I have to wait until it's available. And apparently I need to go see Matt's session at MMS as well, because I will be there. So I'll be properly on the heckler's row and asking questions.
Perfect. We love heckling. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I won't dox the people that you had up on the screen. I don't know if his name's public, but I'll have good information from the PMs and the devs who champion that whole thing to make sure that everybody's well prepared when that gets released. So we're excited to talk about it.
Nice.
Awesome. I think we've got through all the questions for right now, but we've still got 18 minutes available. So if we've got other questions out there, plenty of time.
So one just popping up on... No, that was just a follow-up to the hybrid join question. Never mind. We already covered that one. So nope, we are... All right, one question came up. It was regarding recording. I'm currently using, this is a question from YouTube, I'm currently using built-in reports. Sometimes I use queries to get some additional data. Should I start my learning with Power BI or just keep on rolling with ConfigMgr reporting? I'll say that Power BI gives you way better control into drilling into content or into data more quickly than a report ever will. And Power BI reports are usually, I like them better from a visual point of view. They look nicer, they look more modern. And there are so many that you can download for free and use, or even if you decide to pay for them, there are vendors, for example, like our friends over at System Center Dudes. They've been publishing these for a good while now, and they are priced like $79 for a Power BI dashboard for say imaging or whatever you want to learn. They also have subscription models and whatnot, so I highly recommend to take a look at it. Jordan Bensing has published a few, and David Seben over in New York have published a few. But definitely recommend looking into Power BI if you're looking into drilling into ConfigMgr data, because it is richer. It can do more than you can do in just using reporting services.
Big key for me in choosing, so I do a lot of Custo, right? All of our internal logging and stuff is all in Custo. And a big thing for me is, which may play into the decision here for our friend asking the question, is when you're writing query language and you're building those aggregations yourself, if something goes awry in those aggregations, you can spend like hours of your life trying to figure out who changed a column name, where the inner join failed, and all that other sort of stuff. What's awesome about Power BI is you can take a relatively flat, huge data set, bring it into Power BI and build your dashboard, and the dashboard does all the pivots and the joins for you. And your data source is simple and you're just updating it. It's like a lower maintenance cost for me personally. I don't know how other people feel about it, but for me personally, I can stop doing all these summarize and render operators and all this sort of stuff and just say, hey, give me this table with these columns, bring that huge amount of data into a Power BI backend or a Power BI supported backend and just pivot off of that data. And it's just simple. It just works all the time. Yeah, I don't know who invented Power BI. If their first hit was like Microsoft Excel, they're probably on a yacht somewhere. Excel, BI, right? But I'm a big fan of Power BI.
Yeah, I just hoping for an AI version of it, like Power BI Copilot. I can just, hey, you build me something nice, and it will do that. So,
wouldn't that be incredible? Like you just turn it on, and it's like, hey, based on the data you brought in, you might want to see these visualizations. And you're like, yeah, and I would want to see those. That's great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Good. Yep, it's good.
the whole AI just blows my mind. Good or bad, but it's going to be an interesting year. For sure.
The interpretation power. I see these people using Chat GPT and that to use, like, create Custo scripts to do hunting in like Defender for Endpoint.
Yeah.
What they would have had to take hours to figure out what the indicators of compromise were and figure out how to show those on their devices. They could just type in a query and like things like that just show up. And you're just like, oh my God, you've just taken all the reading out of searching. You know, it's like, it's great.
Yeah, that was interesting. Looking forward to learn more as time goes by here.
We've had a couple of follow-ups here. Thank you for the suggestions on the reporting, Johan. What's the company name you referred to, the website for either the Power BI reporting solutions for purchase or for free?
Well, the team over at System Center Dude State, they are downright amazing at this. So I would definitely start there. They have some free stuff, they have some paid stuff, but they have been part of the community for, if not 2 decades, so a good decade and a half by now. So good stuff.
And I'll also share Patch My PC has the software update reporting dashboard for Power BI, so I'll add that into the links.
Yep.
Anything else that comes off the top of my head as well.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, let's see. If either of you have auto patch deployed, I noticed in update rings policy, the modern workplace update policies have drivers allowed by default. How does this work with Microsoft driver deployment? Yeah, so basically, my understanding when the drivers are allowed in an update ring, for example, is it's going to basically be like on your consumer device. If you go and run Windows updates and drivers are allowed to come down, it's going to check against Microsoft Update, see if there are any drivers that are available that are newer or not even installed on your device, and it's going to pull those down. So essentially the same consumer experience is my understanding.
Yeah, it's basically the equivalent on-off toggle that you have on your normal update rings. I haven't seen any integration yet in Windows Auto Patch in the new driver and firmware servicing controls that we've been covering here a few times. It might very well be in the radar, but I don't know. But I don't think it's currently implemented because I haven't seen anything like that in the Windows Auto Patch configurations yet.
Yep, same.
All right. Still have a whopping 10 more minutes if there are any more questions. Hard questions from Matt would be appreciated.
Zero hard questions I've got so far. That's good, right? No hard questions. It means the docs are great. It means that everything just works.
Absolutely.
Maybe time for some vacation, right?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we did have another question coming in. We buy Dell PCs. How do we get the warranty data integrated with ConfigMgr?
It's been a while since I saw that, but someone cooked up a solution to integrate that. It must have been 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some of that. There have been a couple of different solutions, I feel like. Maurice actually.
Yeah.
Maurice has a Power BI report from 2017 that uses Dell Command integration.
I've seen something from Prial. No, nothing that stands out, but a little bit of internet searching on it will bring up a few links at least, but it's not something I have worked with. If anyone happen to know if there is a good solution for ConfigMgr and the Dell warranty, by all means, let us know in the chat, and we'll be happy to share it.
Is it still a relatively big thing you guys hear about now? Like, I know when I was imaging devices probably 5 to 10 years ago, warranty was a big thing, you know? It seems to like sort of started to wane off. I don't know if it's because, you know, some of the OEMs have gotten their own solutions, right, to monitor warranties and that sort of stuff. I don't know if is it something you guys still hear a lot about, or is it you have sort of the same perspective?
I agree, because now you get notifications sent in an email and say, hey, you have 4 devices that is about to, either you have to renew your contract or they're about to expire for whatever reason. And the notification systems is better.
Yeah, I just remember maybe it was probably like 5 or 10 years ago. It was like this big push all at once. Everybody was like, hey, I need to know all my warranty information on all my devices. You know? It's like, that's when a lot of these solutions, I think, started to come around. I just didn't know if it was something people still used or used at scale, or if there's different solutions I just don't know about, you know?
Yeah. All right. I don't see anything else coming in, so I think we're going to call it a day. Andrew, thanks for joining as usual. And of course, Matt, thank you so much for sticking with us for the hour. Appreciate you taking time out of your day.
No worries. I'm always happy to. Hopefully you have me back. This will probably be the highest rated session you've ever been on. So if I want to try and repeat that, that's okay. My fees
That is all right.
My fees go up. So, you know, right now they're $0. There'll be 0 times 100 next time, which I think is
So 2 beers instead of 1.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know if we've ever met in person, but excited to meet you at MMS, and everybody else is coming. Make sure you come by and say hi to me and all the other Microsoft folks. We'd love to have a chat with you.
All right. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.